Good morning. Those of us coming from the northeast of the United States, nothing but raining. As you're overlooking the schedule today, please remind you to refer to the papers that were put into the program, the erratum, because there are some adjustments in the schedule. So if you need to be thinking about timing, please look at that paper. We'll keep you posted during the day. March this past year, we convened a planning meeting here at the Gregorian about this conference. And we had 24 people spend the day together talking about what the shape and the scope of our conference could be. The first presenter at that meeting back in March was Father Fabio Baggio. Father Baggio has been, along with Father Czerny, his co-worker at the section on migrants and refugees, a guiding light for us in the preparation of this conference. Father Baggio is a Scalabrini missionary from Italian-American boy from New York. The Scalabrini fathers played a very special role when my great-grandparents and grandparents came to the United States. So it's a special privilege for me to be meeting so many Scalabrini fathers. I'm going to forego even attempting to go through the resumes of the various speakers this morning. I'd spend the whole time telling you about them. But very briefly about Father Baggio. He was the director of the Scalabrini International Migration Institute here in Rome, tenured professor at the Urbana, visiting professor at several universities. His work as a member of the Scalabrini missionary order has taken him to various and sundry parts of the world, and he and Father Czerny were now asked by the Pope this past January to help to form this new office of migrants and refugees. So I'll turn it over to him. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning to everyone. I would like to start, thanking the organizers for giving us a slot in the beginning of this second day of work. And it has been a pleasure and honor for the section Migrants and Refugee to support the work of the FIUC, of the Federation, International Federation Catholic University, in preparation for this important gathering. I would like to ask our technical staff to put the PowerPoint on the screen. Thank you. Caring for refugees and vulnerable migrants and the role of the Catholic universities. This is what we thought together with Father Michael. He's accompanying me. He's sitting on the floor together with you, just in front. Father Michael. He's a Jesuit, a Scalabrinian and Jesuit, together to assist the Pope for this important work, catering to migrants and refugees. And what we are going to share now is a little brief introduction of a section. What is it? What is all about? What is our mandate, role, and mission? And then some of the recommendations we would like to highlight for all Catholic universities around the world. You, in a very special way, representatives of the different Catholic universities, but also others who are just around them, haven't had the chance to come here and stay with you. Well, yeah. It was on 16th of August 2016 when the Motu Proprio Humanam Progressium was issued by Pope Francis. It was envisioning a new dicastery within the Roman Curia, merging 4 different pontifical councils, and among them the Pontifical Council for the Pastoral Care of Migrants and Itinerant People. The new dicastery has to be organized and ready to start on January the 1st on 2017. But actually we are still working on this kind of organization. It's not easy. But we started again with a place, a very special place in Palazzo San Callisto, where the Pontifical Council for Migrants and Itinerant People was before, and trying immediately to prepare a strategic plan which we we presented to the Holy Father. You may know that within the new dicastery, the Pope thought about a spacious section for migrants and refugees. And when the Pope called Father Michael and myself, he explained to us that there were 3 categories of vulnerable people, people on the move, which should be our main concern. So migrants, internal and international migrants, forced migrants, displaced people, internally displaced and refugee asylum seekers, and victims of human trafficking. So these 3 groups, not because the others are not important, just because of their vulnerability. And we start working on a plan with priorities, with actions, with a vision and mission, which we presented to the Pope in January, and it was approved. And starting from then, we start working directly with the Pope, because the section, as it is said in the Motu Proprio, it is at the tempus under the direct guidance of the Pope, which means simply that the Pope is our superior, is directing us, giving us instructions. We have monthly meetings with him where we are receiving a recommendation, instruction, and indications, and we are presenting all the different issues coming from the local churches, coming from the Catholic organization, or coming from other people, just highlighting not only the problem, but also the opportunities offered by the current migration flows. So the mission, which was immediately clarified by the Holy Father to us, was to support the local church. We are there to assist, to accompany the local church in the work, in the ministry to migrants, refugees, and victims of human trafficking. And the Pope clarified that when he meant, when he referred to local churches, he referred to churches in the countries of origin, transit, and arrival. So 3 different phases of the migration experiences. And many times the 4th phase, which is one of return, which is also it's like a new migration, people just going back and experiencing similar problems of those who are just trying to integrate themselves into a society. So accompanying migrants is a task of the local church, and we are there to assist. Accompany displaced people, accompany refugees, and protecting and accompanying the victims of human trafficking. The vision, which was also given to us after a moment of reflection together in January 2017, was a twofold vision. The first one is about the migration as a matter of choice. We envision a world where migration is just out of a choice of a person. When we have alternatives, we can decide either to stay or to go. So together with the right to migrate, we also strongly advocate the right not to have to migrate, the right to stay. So both ideas. And the second, which is part of the opportunities offered by the migration, the contemporary migrations, is a society which is built out of the richness of the different people coming together through migration. And this is exactly what the kingdom of God is all about. All humanity is a unique humanity working together to the real homeland, which is not here, but is just in the kingdom of heaven. What are the action areas? We decided to divide our work in 4 different action areas. The first one is the one of collecting information from the field, from the grassroots, data and evidences. It is important to know a very complex phenomenon like the one of migration, which is becoming more and more complex looking at today's migration, where mixed flows are just changing the picture that we had before, where the globalization of phenomenon, as it was said yesterday by many of the speakers, is making the understanding of the same phenomenon more complicated. Understanding and interpretation is part of a work, and the purpose was very straightforward. Not just scientific understanding, but also theological understanding of what is happening. And this is also something that I would stress just afterward when I want to express some of the recommendations for the Catholic University. Pastoral directions, pastoral planning exercise is also to be implemented by the local churches with our assistance. So we are going to assist the local churches in their pastoral planning exercise so that the pastoral responses to the challenges posed by migration will be effective, adequate, and in line with God's will, which is very important and is part of our main role as a Roman Curia for all the local churches around the world. And the 4th area is about action, but the Pope was very straightforward with us. The action is entrusted to the local church. Bishops are in charge of the pastoral actions, together with their all pastoral agents in the field. So we are there to assist, and according to the principle of subsidiarity, whenever we are called to act together with them, we will be there. But it is a task of the local church. One of the main things that with Father Michael we discovered at the beginning of our mandate that there was a huge process ongoing in the international political arena. And it was a process leading to the adoption of global compacts, one on migrants and one regarding refugees, and within the United Nations body. And we decided, together with the Holy Father, that it was a momentum, a kairos, for the Catholic Church to stand united in some of the principles on one side, but mostly in the actions which are already performed by many of the faithful around the world. We are talking about institutions and individuals working for migrants and refugees with a lot of best practices on the field. And we are quite proud to say that the Catholic Church has been outstanding in catering to migrants, refugees, and victims of human trafficking in all over the world. So in this case, it's just to gather all the best practices and to propose the replication and the multiplication of best practices all around the world. If we look at yesterday's discussion, I do believe that we have gathered a lot of good practices. I was very pleased to see the engagement of the Catholic University in the field with migrants, with refugees, and it was amazing. The results of the work of many of the presence of the people here is amazing, amazing. And I think they need more visibility, they should be boosted, and mostly replicated in many other areas of the world. So we decided to work for the Global Compacts, and we engage in this work as a real, I would say, advocacy work, but being present in all different arenas that are just organized in order to elaborate and prepare the text of the Global Compacts to be adopted probably in the second semester of 2018. And we engage all the local churches around the world, all bishop conferences, and we got a very good response from all of them. And we engage all the Catholic organizations which are proactively working for migrants and refugees with ECOSOC status and with a long tradition of advocacy. Also, we engage them in the same work. So practically, all the Catholic Church is united in this specific action. I would be pleased then to share with all the participants of this section the 20 action points which summarized the position that we have and what we want to see included within the two texts of the Global Compacts. We also decided to have a strong awareness campaigns around the world. We are using social media in a very special way, a very nice website that I would like to invite you to visit, www.migrants-refugees.va. You just enter, you visit our website, and we are trying to present positive stories of migrants and refugees. We want to turn all the challenges into opportunities. And this is why we are using a lot of awareness campaign, because we notice that there are negative trends all around, and they are a negative narrative, which is normally used by some of the political parties in order to perform their own political line, but is not telling the truth. And there is a lot of fake news just going around about migrants and refugees. So, after working with the Pope for these months, we were able to get from him some of the inside leading our work also. The first thing is telling us to have a special attention to the vulnerable and to suffering human beings. All the vulnerable and suffering human beings are part of his concern. So we are looking at this huge world of human mobility, looking for the most vulnerable and those who are suffering. And this will be our main beneficiaries for the action. The second is we look at this word, and we, as the Pope is used to say, the culture of waste is reigning. It is ruling in most of our society. And as a result, indifference is globalized today. So how to react to this? Well, putting again the centrality of the human person at the center, at the core of every debate and discourse. And recall to everybody that those who are not, meaning human beings, who are not serving anymore this culture of consumerism, they are just disregarded, discarded. They are part of waste. And we want to oppose as we can with this idea of is putting them at the center, those who are not able to stand by themselves, those who are vulnerable, those who are normally considered as waste are the core, are the main beneficiaries of our action, and they will be put always on the center. And the third one is the protagonism of the poor, which is also part of a core message of Pope Francis. We are also, the popular organizations are part of a voice coming directly from the grassroots and giving the right power and the empowerment to stand alone also to migrants and refugees. So not acting for them, make them able to act, which is also part of a strategy that we want to implement. I'm going to start with some recommendation, a very quick one, because time is very limited. So I have divided the recommendation in three main areas. The first one is research, the second one is education, and the third one is social action. And it is addressing particularly Catholic University. The first one, I would like to invite of the Catholic University to insert in their research program data, evidences, and sound reflection on human mobility. Migration and asylum, refugee, forced migration should be part of the study, and trying to help us to oppose the negative narratives and the toxic myth about migration. We would like to have a huge support from our university just to change the narrative. And it's not just a question of a scientific journal to be produced, a scientific book or article to be produced, but even the massive dissemination of information which need the engagement of all of us. The second is a sound, honest assessment of the root causes of contemporary forced migration. We want to highlight that many times the international political body is discussing the root causes of migration, but it seems that they are not really reaching the real causes of migration, where old and new political strategies are perpetuating, are making, it's continuing boosting the forced migration coming from some countries, still exploited, and well, where conflicts are still ongoing, and we are talking about decades of conflicts. And highlighting the responsibility of the leading countries, whereas it's not a question of giving money, but it's a real change of policies, is a real change of mentality with all the countries of origins. Instead of narrow understanding of a common good and distributed justice, we would like to see the Catholic University helping us to propose new ethical assessment, where at stake is not the common good of a specific country, but the common good of all humankind. It is one of the main problems that we face today, where the common good of a society is becoming more and more narrow. Before it was a common good of a region, then it became a common good of a nation. And today we are facing the common good of a province within a nation, and tomorrow will be a city within a province, and the day after we are going to see a suburb. So what is the criteria for the understanding of a common good? Where is the inclusion and exclusion to be adopted in terms of common good? New ethical assessment, also the universal destination of goods, is not question of generosity, is not just question of solidarity, but it's also just a question of justice and applied justice, where we recognize that, starting from the social doctrine of the Church, everything which was given to humankind is for the whole humankind, not for few among human beings. And this is what the Pope is still stressing every time from Laudato Si and on, where few people are having most of the resources of the world. And this is where it's not going to work, and asymmetries, inequalities are enhanced instead of being diminished. New ethical assessment of a global stewardship and co-responsibility in the governance of the planet. I think the Laudato Si was very explicit, very clear in this, including human movement and natural resources, is where we see that every decision taken in any part of the world is having results everywhere in the world, where our stewardship, which is according to the social doctrine of the Church and the theological understanding, a responsibility of administration is to be understood as not ownership, but something that we are accountable for at a certain moment. And it is not just my country, but the entire world. And where the movement of people is recalling that migration and asylum policies cannot be national policies. They have to be international policies, just by definition, because they are entailing people crossing borders. The fears and resistance of Catholic and academic communities around the world, particularly in the economically rich countries, what we are facing today, and we are receiving a lot of messages in the section, is there are strong negative reaction. We don't want migrants anymore. We don't want refugees anymore. Stay in your country, do not come here. And I can go on with all the messages that we're receiving with Father Michael every day. And we realized, unfortunately, and the Pope was very outspoken with the directors of a European migrantes when they came for an audience and said, knowing that, of course, there is an uneasy situation that many of the Catholics are experiencing because they are unprepared to receive a massive flows of migrants and refugees. On the other side, the Catholic stand is a sacred hospitality to be offered, saving lives, first of all, and then we try to do, with prudence, of course, to do all the efforts that we can in order to make space for people to come. But the fears and resistance are there, and we have to be very clear in our stand. Building up the church, gathering all humankind, fulfilling her Catholicity in a very inclusive spirit, is where we discover, as a Catholic, well, in our case, and Vatican Office, and all the Catholic University, that the human movement are just telling us how the Church should be inclusive and Catholic, universal, open to everyone, where there is not possibility to call us Catholic if somebody is out. So the door should be always open. You know, it's a question of waiting there, as the Pope used to say, is go out and call, which is very different just to stay with the door open. With the migrants, the mission is coming to us, is a new missionological understanding, and interreligious dialogue is a new missionary challenge coming to us. And today, instead of discussing about possible invasions, Muslim invasion, we should talk about the opportunity which is given to us to do our mission, first of all, with our own witness, and secondly, with a dialogue which should be very open to the others. And we have to leave the Holy Spirit to work in this. It is a great missionary opportunity which is given. The second area is education. And here I listened yesterday to some of the project, and I'm very happy to see that a lot of things are already going on, and many things are just existing, and we have just to replicate them. Education for refugees and asylum seekers in camps, through physical or distance learning at all levels, starting from the primary going to the tertiary education. And here I say the importance of replicate best practices already ongoing. We ask the Catholic University to implement programs of scholarships for refugees and asylum seekers so that they can qualify for visas and resettlement. This is a huge opportunity that we have today, also to be proactively helping them to find a new way. You may know that 83% of refugees are just standing in developing countries and not in developed countries. And many of them are waiting for resettlement. So this is also a way that we can help. Mutual recognitions of academic degrees among Catholic universities. We are talking about 1,800 Catholic universities, part of this federation. Just thinking about the possibility of a mutual recognition of titles, you may understand how we can boost the possibility of integration of all people coming to our countries as a concrete way of empowering refugees and migrants. But not only academic titles, there are also professions which are part of the richness of migrants and refugees coming to developed countries, and to see how we can help them to have their capacity and competencies updated and upgraded within. So courses that can help them to be recognized in what they can contribute to the hosting societies. Training courses for pastoral agents engage in many different programs catering to refugees and migrants. I was part of, just to mention one example, one of the new initiatives of the Catholic University of Milan, actually the Catholic University of Italy in the Rome campus. They started a special course training pastoral agents to cater to unaccompanied children. a very special vulnerable group. And this is also important, and I hope that all Catholic universities would engage in this professional training for our pastoral agents. To prepare future policy makers and government executive, I would like to ask to introduce modules on migration and asylum in various curricula. Please do not forget that the role of the Catholic universities around the world is also to prepare the future leaders of our societies. And this is where we have a chance. I am also part, I'm professor as well of one of the Pontifical University. We are also part of this special training of the future leaders, where modules on migration and asylum with a very different perspectives can be inserted. Social engagement. Well, the first one is the importance of listening to the poor, empowering their leadership. Is exactly a consequence of what is the Pope's vision, where they have capacities, they have to be put in conditions of being empowered and express their potential as leaders of their life and leaders of their communities. Strong practical commitments guiding research, policy and program pastoral actions is very important to foresee any kind of research that we are doing with a very practical aspect of recommendations or action following the research. While we do appreciate, of course, the knowledge, to knowing more that we know before, on the other side, we also appreciate, and we highly appreciate, the pastoral and active dimension of the research. Combining scientific and theological reflections. This came directly from the Pope. It was told to us in the real beginning, and we like to share this engagement with you, with the Catholic University, where there is no way that the scientific conclusions and results cannot be highlighted, cannot be understood from a very special focus and the light of the revelation, and where the theological understanding would help us to have a broader and a brighter picture. The importance of local engagement in collaboration with the local church. This is also very important, as we as an office are entrusted to work strictly with the local churches, would like also to invite all Catholic University to work always together with the local church. And sometimes what we notice that just because of the enthusiasm, just because of the capacity, many universities are running faster. And sometimes the local church is struggling to keep the pace. So this is the idea of working together and to strengthen cooperation and collaboration with the local churches. Thank you.
I'd like to open the floor for about 5 minutes if there are any questions for Father Baggio or comments.
Good morning. My name is Albert Evrard, University of Namur in Belgium. We started 2 years ago some action at university welcoming refugees, families, starting with French class for beginners and those things, hosting by students as well. Now, when we took contact with the local church, the answer was quite silent. And not only with the local church, but we noticed yesterday during one of the sessions that there is a huge group of Muslims. So our idea was to take contact with the Muslims community, with the imams. It's not only about the church, but when we take contact with them and we highlight that they also have a duty of charity, we get a negative answer, which means that it makes things difficult for us to support this kind of action by our own. And obviously, it's something that we have first to do is to raise awareness. But I think we have to think broadly, to think within the church is nice, it's fine, but we also have to be kind of leverage tool to to ask others and religious communities involved to work for refugees as well.
Yep. Yep. I may answer immediately. Well, part of our work is also the engagement of other bodies, other actors within the political arena and the religious arena. We have started, of course, a dialogue with a lot of other religious leaders, and we can avail also of other offices of the Curia. They are just entrusted the dialogue with them. And I can share some of the concerns that you just mentioned today. Well, within the Rome or the Italian situation, well, many times it's quite difficult. But I have also positive experiences that I can share with other groups, maybe because they call themselves enlightened, but at the same time they have been very proactive. And I can share one of the good things. I was in the Philippines. I've been living in the Philippines for 8 years, and I was quite amazed to see that a Muslim organization just came to support a Catholic project in the Philippines. And it was one of the things which was a result of a dialogue which started, well, 2 years of dialogue, but at the end, we decided that it was very easy then to find ourselves in a coincidence where the good of the men and women at stake, I mean migrants and family of migrants, were a common interest. On the other side, I would say that one thing that I learned staying in Asia, I've been working a lot in Asia, that charity is really a good missionary tool. I would say that if it's something that we can share and we can be Christians and Catholic all around the world through our charity, I have to recall the figure of Mother Teresa of Calcutta, where just through her charity, she was able to announce. Announce, it doesn't mean proselytism. Announcement is just announcement of salvation, leaving everybody free to be faithful to their religion, but also understanding that there is a Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ came for the salvation of all, and the announcement of his salvation is done through the good that I'm able to do. So on one side or the other, but I understand, and especially Europe is quite complicated because of many other issues. And if I may, in one of the conferences that I was called to, I say that in this sense, I am more afraid of the secularization process than the coming of our religions, where we can have common grounds and we can share the opening to the transcendental dimension, this kind of opening to the divine work of in our life, rather than with others who are just closing the door to God and to all the possibility of this kind of a communication.
Thank you, Father. I think we need to move on to our next section.
Thank you.
Very, very much.
Thank you to all. Yeah, I'm here anyway. I'm here for you.
Certainly received a very clear set of objectives and possible areas for us as universities to be responding to going forward. We turn now to the topic for this morning's session, teaching migrants and refugees and providing useful academic titles. Those of us who have labored in the vineyards of the university world know that the question of academic titles and credits is an issue that is with us, sometimes haunts us. So we've got a topic that's certainly very, very pertinent in our lives and in our efforts to teach migrants and refugees. There's 3 parts to the rest of the morning. We'll now have a roundtable discussion between Father Peter Ballet and Melanie Rosenbaum. Then a response to their reflections, and then moving to a session on technologies for education. So if I could invite Father Peter and Melanie to come up.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you very much for this opportunity to share a few experiences from our organization and work of Jesuit Worldwide Learning. We offer a blended model of online learning for people at the margins, including refugees, migrants, and we do that work in collaboration with organizations, universities. Of course, one of our sister organizations, Jesuit Refugee Service, is a partner, but also the Catholic University of Erbil. And to honor the Australian Catholic University, actually they had that great idea in the year 2000, which traveled over to the US and then was picked up at that time, and then we developed it into this organization to enhance that further. On international accreditation, I would like to share 5 points with you. I think in our model, it is very important from the beginning that students do not just an online course, MOOC, which are very valuable, but that to have institutions who accredit these courses, who give the students credits and even diploma and a degree. So we set out in the year 2010 in partnership with Regis University in Denver, Colorado, in a program, diploma program of 45 credits in liberal arts. And also there are students of our partner organization in the field and us. There are also regular students, online students of Regis University in Denver, and they get recognized 45 accredited credits for the courses they do. And that is something very important, to offer studies which are accredited. Second point is quality. And I would like to highlight that one has to, we always say that one of the things, the best for the least. So not to offer something secondary class to the poor people, but the best. And that's why it is important to partner with good institutions of high quality and to offer that. But the quality is not just that sense to have renowned institutions like we look around in the Jesuit world of Jesuit universities, but also Catholic universities, of course, and mission-aligned other universities who want to partner with us to reach out to the poor at the margins. And it is maybe in the line of the talk before, to empower people. It's actually the idea is bring the university to the people, to the communities. And via online it's possible. We have learning sites in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, in Afghanistan, in 3 places, in North Iraq, Jordan, in 2 refugee camps with the JRS in Kenya and Malawi, and even a learning site in Brooklyn in New York at the margins, of course. What is important of quality, last aspect is, it was stressed also yesterday, holistic formation. For this reason, because as faith-based, as Catholic institutions, we want to have to form people and not just to transmit knowledge. And that's why we also decided to develop, in collaboration with the universities, our own global curriculum, which is culturally sensitive, and students from different faith and cultural backgrounds study that together. That's a title, Worldwide Learning. In the virtual space, the students are together. We have, out of the 361 students at present in the academic program, they're from 40 different countries, and they're always grouped together from different places in classes of 15, accompanied by a professor, not teaching, but accompanying and evaluating their level, so that there's a great cultural exchange. And in reality is more than half of our students are of Islamic background, because we have a lot of students in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Jordan. Third point I would like to make is the international and the local recognition. It's true, it is valuable to have a local recognition, but this is not just the only aspect. A world which is ever more global, people value across borders and cultures, degrees and quality education. And students which we have, they get a diploma, 45 credits from Regis in a US-based diploma. They all got into universities with 45 credits in the US, Canada, Finland, Israel, South Korea, in Australia, in Kenya, and other countries. So there is a local recognition also for that. It's not always possible so easily because, for example, in North Iraq, or in Iraq, the Kurdish government says online courses we don't recognize. You're welcome to run them for the benefit of the people, but we don't recognize that. But it's not just governments, it's business might say, no, but this person has done a good course. And like one of our students of the host community in Malawi, next to the Dzaleka camp, she has already done some studies at the Malawi University. But she said, when we asked, why do you do that in this course also? No, because that, if I have that, it has so much more recognition as an international cadet. So we need to think here also that the world is becoming ever more international. So we stand rather, if it's the choice for an internationally recognized degrees across the boards. Then the fourth point is the learning path, and that's important, the accreditation. So our students, our academic students, and start out with this diploma in liberal arts, which is a kind of a basic formative studies, also forming people into broader thinking, critical thinking, values, and so on. But now we move on with in negotiation with Creighton University to bring them to an AA degree. So Creighton recognizes the 45 credits of Regis students, takes them further with another few credits and courses into an AA degree, which is then in the US system the first academic degree. And then with that, it's easy for the students to go on in online programs of other universities. For example, there's the offer of the Salt Lake City, Utah University for Bachelor in Social Work. Creighton itself offers 4 places for students to then go on in online studies. South New Hampshire University offers 100 places, which we start now in Kakuma in Malawi, in Dzaleka camp, to offer to former graduates to move on now to a BA, and so on. And so we develop in partnership, I say that in detail because that is a form of how universities can come in to bring a student. I always say it's a little bit like the Star Alliance airline model. You fly with that airline from here to here, from here to here, then you fly on with the next one under their flag from here to here. So it is important, the mutual recognition of the credits. That's a key, and that was also said before. The Pope was asked the Catholic University that they recognize the credits or the courses, the degrees, diploma of another partner sister organization or university, and then students can do their learning path. And again, it's fascinating if students do a diploma with more US-based background university and move on with a Catholic university in Europe in another course, or another university in India with Xavier University in Bhubaneswar in sustainable environment, where we develop hopefully a bachelor degree. So this is to think that way. That's how we can do it together. Now, in that model, we can reach out to many people and have a global, worldwide learning, real learning together, if we partner together and students can choose, go from here to here. So mutual recognition is very important. And the last point is joint kind of local programs. And I look here at the Catholic University in Erbil. We have strategically, it's not a refugee camp, but we strategically said we want to partner with the Catholic University in Erbil because we need that local base. And I think there's a mutual gain with it. Steve Rush, we are in conversation since a year and so on, and have now there the Catholic University 16 diploma students of Jesuit Worldwide Learning. They have, besides the other programs of the Catholic University Erbil offers. And exactly we had this crisis situation what Stephen Rush yesterday referred to. Recently our tutor said, the 2 students, the parents have to move back to Karakosh and to Mosul. The Iraqi government tells the parents who have a government job they have to move back, otherwise they lose the government job. So our students also move. Are we going to lose our students? I said, no. Why should we lose our students? It's online. They can continue to study from Karakosh or from Mosul, wherever they are, but remain connected in a learning group with that learning group at the Catholic University. So the model is flexible, and we need to look at models in, I call it in pre-conflict, in conflict and post-conflict situations. So the great thing of what Stephen already yesterday said is they have local recognition by the Iraqi government. The Iraqi government doesn't recognize online learning, but in a combination, sitting together with courses which are missing, which it's just not so easy to offer that right away now at Erbil. Who wants to go there as a faculty, as Steve was explained yesterday clearly, to bring in via online courses, make them available with international recognition, but also combined with courses of the Catholic University at Erbil, and we can reach out to many more people, give people a perspective, and give people also a perspective to become leaders of the future, what was just said now, in order to make hopefully one day a change to find more peaceful solutions in this part of the world. So I'll end here with my 5 points on the issue of accreditation, which is very key.
Morning. So I've now the arduous task to add a bit of legal background and international background to the very pertinent and practical examples and practices. I'm from the ENIC office of the Holy See, which is located with the Congregation for Catholic Education. And for those who are not so familiar with the European system, the countries that are part of the UNESCO Convention on Recognition for Qualifications have to have a dedicated office to promote recognition and provide authoritative information on national education systems. So the Holy See too, as we have ratified 4 regional conventions, signed 4 regional conventions, which is Africa, Asia Pacific, Europe obviously, and Latin America and the Caribbean. We have this office within the congregation's premises, so the Ministry for Education Services. And our jurisdiction extends to the whole world, since the responsibility is for the 4 regional conventions. And just another parenthesis here to the competences. So within the higher education system of the Holy See, there's a good 400 ecclesiastical faculties and a good 1,300 Catholic universities ruled by diverse apostolic constitutions. And our office aims at promoting the fair recognition of qualifications and degrees obtained from ecclesiastical academic institutions. So I'm closing the parenthesis here, because of those all mentioned institutions, some are more prone to be concerned with the challenges as to recognition, and we've heard of Erbil being in conflict, where institutions had to displace themselves through genocides. They had to go to Shanghai from their home countries, and some are less directly concerned, but they were able to form a network and foster and provide expertise and research opportunities. We have seen the slides of Father Wagner there. So this is the who does things. What about the why? To provide possibility for access to higher education and inclusion is only to be done by assessment of qualifications held by, and I'm focusing here on refugees, displaced persons, or persons in a refugee-like situation. And that's a long-standing legal obligation, actually. For the countries bound by the Lisbon Recognition Convention, this is since 1999. And it's an Article number 7 that was developed in the crisis during the conflict in former Yugoslavia in the 1990s, when many people from Bosnia and Herzegovina especially searched refuge in other countries. So the implementation was a bit stalling in the last years, but since summer 2015 we see the number of people fleeing their home countries and seeking refuge in Europe dramatically increasing. But we've heard also yesterday and the day that there's, in other parts of the world, also a pronouncedly perceived resettlement and integration necessity, and it's a significant policy concern in more and more countries. Just as to numbers, the Lisbon Convention is 55 signatory states, and only yesterday, if I read that right, Canada has ratified, so for Canada that is in force now. So I will not repeat what Father Badger said, and I preach to the choir when I say that we have a responsibility to fight the marginalization and to very biblically take care of my neighbor, which is the refugee, to help everybody to become the best selves, as it was said in the beginning, be that furnishing support or be that fostering inclusion by receiving support. So refugees have skills, ideas, hopes and dreams, but they, in a lot of cases, can't prove that documentary. So enabling them to make use of the qualifications they have reduces not only the pain of their experience, but gives them motivation to study further on and continue in their very difficult situation. So they can maintain and further develop their competences, and that's an advantage not only to the host countries where they're at the moment, but hoping they may one day be able to return home, they will benefit also and rebuild their home countries. So again, it's part of our responsibility and duty, and you can call it a moral duty or not, or you can refer to giving to Caesars as referring to a legal binding obligation or to God, but still we are seeing an international and global challenge, and that needs a global and universal answer. And I'm here referring to the Greek origin of the word Catholic. It needs an all-embracing answer. And Catholic universities are part of a family and a network, and they are therefore in the front row for attacking the legal problems as well. So also, 3 of the conventions already contain dispositions with regard to refugees, but I think all those that are under revision, for example, that for the Arab states and that for Latin America, will contain such dispositions in future. So the obligation, of course, is for the country, but the country guarantees that its institutions, so your institutions, will take all feasible and reasonable steps within the framework of this education system and their legal provisions to develop procedures designed to assess fairly and expeditiously whether refugees, displaced persons, and persons in the refugee situation fulfill the relevant requirements for access to higher education, for further higher education, or to employment professional activities. So, and even that, if that cannot be proven through documentary evidence. So the assessment of inadequately documented qualifications will seek to establish whether the applicants have that qualification or are likely to have that qualification they claim. It might further aim to establish the value of that qualification in the own host educational system, and where there's formal rights attached to that qualification in the host country, the qualification of the refugee should be assessed with a view to giving him the comparable rights in that country. So how is that done? What's that in reality? It's not a unification. It's not even a harmonization of grades and titles or imposing of models, but comparatively to unity and diversity, it's about making comparable. It's respecting the subsidiarity and respecting the institutional autonomy and the academic freedom. But it's and somebody asked for that yesterday, the meaningful rapid response system from academia. Well, academia has to have the tools and the projects to assess fairly and expeditiously those qualifications. It's a fundamental shift from a teacher's or organization's perspective, like listing the content of a course, to a student-centered learning perspective and an assessment based on learning outcomes. So it's not about has he listened to this and that course which this and that teacher with this and that content offers. It's about, is he able to, for example, diagnose a renal failure and assess the therapy needed. It's about, is he able to plead a course in court? It's about, is she capable of discussing the various periods in church history? It's about what are they able to do, what have they done, what's the learning outcome? And then it becomes much more comparable, because asking 5 teachers what they would like to teach in a certain course will differ considerably, but they might not differ considerably in what they want the student to be able after they have listened to the course or they've participated in the seminar. So it's not anymore a we don't recognize unless you, student, prove it's the same, to we will recognize unless we, competent recognition authority institution, can prove there's a substantial difference to what our system requires. So this is the system in place at the moment in Europe, in the European region, englobing the US and Canada, and is going from Iceland to Tajikistan, actually. It will be, as soon as the conventions of Asia and Africa enforced be the same system there as well, and we hope for Latin America and the Caribbean as well. And all this is therefore replacing the mutual bilateral recognition in terms of country A does a bilateral agreement with country B, or university A does a bilateral agreement with university B. Yes, this is one first step of implementation, but we're hoping to make the big step to the really looking at the substantial differences as the only determining point, and that based on learning outcomes. And this has been, and in some regions it's still to be embraced, a paradigm shift, and it's a promise to the students who are increasingly crossing borders, be it willingly or forcibly. And it's a challenge to you and your institutions, because you are the people behind the promise, and you are rising to meet that challenge within and beyond existing networks. And I think this global Catholic universal challenge requests a global approach and offers a role for any of your organizations. Thank you.
Our section here was entitled A Roundtable Discussion, so we had two good presentations from our two speakers, and I'll invite them to talk with one another before we open it up to some questions and then move on to the next part of the program. So if you'd like to respond to Rebecca or you'd like to respond to Peter, here's the chance.
I think we talked before with one another. Who is saying what, so to check a bit notes, you know, and then that's why.
I've refrained from re-mentioning the question of accreditation in national countries or quality assurance, because this is very important topics, but would go too far to discuss it at this point. I think we both agree very much on that we have to bring forward the possibility to dispose of a certificate, qualification, diploma, grade, universally, internationally, because students get more and more mobile and will need that. And we're not only talking about refugees or migrants here, we're talking about everybody. Because if I look at you, I have a strong doubt that even the majority of you has finished their studies there, where they have begun them, or even where they have been born.
Thanks for putting that into a larger context, because I think you're absolutely right. It's not just an issue for migrants and refugees. Further, it occurred to me that a potential model that has been working itself through in the United States has been articulation agreements between community colleges and four-year colleges. When I started as a rector in 1988, there were often great obstacles for a student who had finished an associate degree who then wanted to transfer to a four-year institution of how many credits would be able to be transferred. Over the years, institutions have developed what we call articulation agreements, so that if a student says that they'd like to start at a community college, get their associate's degree, and then move on to a four-year institution and study in this area, courses have been agreed upon by both faculties at both institutions, so a student has a pathway that allows all 60 credits to move forward towards the 120. That may be a constructive model to look at.
That model I learned from my predecessor, Mary McFarland, and so I learned a little bit the US system. That's actually what we follow with Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City Community College takes the 45 credit students of Regis who cannot give an AA degree. They don't have that accreditation. I have never applied for that. So they take the students forward, those who want, and then they are at an AA. Then the Utah University takes them into their bachelor program. And that's probably the way to build accreditation, articulation agreements with universities, and to build that network of universities who come in and say, yes, we would take your students, or we will take, if you have students who are very good or whatever, of an interest, with 45 credits or an AA degree from Creighton, hopefully then by the new year, we take them into our bachelor program online. And if I look around just in the Jesuits, there are 180 institutes, maybe if half of them offer 4 places per year, then we have already over 100 students can continue on that model, like what they call a seat on the plane, or, you know, and for us, what is very important, our aim is not to be able to offer from A to Z the whole formation of the doctorate. It is the crucial point for the poor people. The hurdles are often to get into the system. The refugees don't get in the system. Yes, some people say it's just a 45, not even a degree, a diploma from Regis, but it has enabled those who wanted to continue with their studies. Without that, they would never have gone into the academic system. And we even have learned in other places, there's a high demand on English courses. So I don't want to become an English language institute, but we offer it now with Cambridge testing and so on, because that's a major hurdle for the poor to get into the system. In North Sri Lanka, the students who have been in the war, coming out of the war, they do nice A-levels in Tamil, but the university is in English, so they don't manage to get into the Sri Lankan university system. So alone a good English course can already enable, that's the thing, help them to do the first step, then they will do their own steps further. They know. They've all made, we didn't offer our diploma graduates, the 200 so far from Kakuma and Saleka camp, the ready-made pathway. No, but many made it to Korea, to the US, and all over, and in Kenya and in Africa. So.
I have a good question.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the next phase of... Oh, good.
Oh, questions are afterwards? Okay.
Let's take the response, and then we'll open it up for discussion from the floor. Thanks. And also, we have the good fortune to also invite into this part of the conversation Rolf Lofstad, Deputy Director of Foreign Education at the Norwegian Agency for Quality Assurance. Rolf, are you here? Please come up. And thank you very much for being able to be with us. So I'll first ask Professor Giuseppe Tonyan from the LUMSA to offer some remarks, and then we'll turn it over to Rolf.
Grazie, parlerò in italiano. Qualcuno deve pur parlare in italiano. Ringrazio molto. Dirò poche cose e non vorrei essere un po' troppo critico rispetto alle molte interessanti questioni sollevate in questa conferenza. Prima di arrivare al problema del sistema del riconoscimento dei titoli accademici, vorrei partire da alcune
What about channel 3? Perfect. Okay, perfect. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
It's okay? Vorrei allora partire da alcune considerazioni. Non farò argomentazioni, ma porrò come questioni. La prima questione è che la Chiesa Cattolica Romana è la prima e principale organizzazione formativa globale non statale al mondo. L'università è un'istituzione, la più antica istituzione dell'Occidente dopo la Chiesa Cattolica Romana. Ha un significato questo dato storico. Ma la Chiesa Cattolica Romana non è soltanto la principale organizzazione formativa non statale, è anche l'unica. E questo va tenuto presente perché dobbiamo dire che in ambito universitario la globalizzazione non ha ancora prodotto i risultati che ci aspettiamo. Anzi, il sistema universitario, per delle ragioni molto complesse, è forse il sistema più resistente ad una logica della globalizzazione. Questo può essere un dato positivo o un dato negativo. Quello che dobbiamo considerare è che di fatto non esiste un diritto universitario internazionale. Sappiamo che è in crisi il diritto internazionale in quanto tale e dentro questa crisi non abbiamo gli strumenti per pensare un diritto internazionale dell'università. Mi sono occupato, quando avevo carichi di governo, di costruire alla fine degli anni 90 quello che è diventato il processo di Bologna. Conosco molto bene tutte le difficoltà che abbiamo dovuto superare per creare l'European Credit Transfer System. E il grande compromesso politico in un ambito solo europeo, immaginate voi la complessità a livello planetario, è stato il compromesso politico di lasciare ai singoli Stati la responsabilità di dare le regole per il riconoscimento dei titoli e dei crediti. Dentro questo compromesso, alcuni Stati come il mio, la Repubblica Italiana, hanno deciso di allontanare da sé il problema e hanno affidato ai rettori, ai responsabili di ogni università, il compito di riconoscere titoli di studio terziari e anche crediti o titoli universitari. Questo processo di allontanamento dei problemi del riconoscimento dal centro verso la periferia è il risultato di alcune grandi questioni. Nel caso europeo, della questione della sicurezza e dei visa e dunque di tutta la materia che riguarda l'entrata e il permanere di giovani o meno giovani, rifugiati, emigrati, richiedenti asilo politico. E in tutta Europa c'è una grande diffidenza nei confronti di coloro che attraverso l'iscrizione ad una università cercano di aggirare il problema dei visa e della possibilità di rimanere dentro un paese. Le politiche nazionali stanno diventando in Europa molto rigide. In altre dimensioni continentali ci sono altri problemi. Vi ho detto che non esiste un diritto universitario internazionale e noi possiamo dire che per le università esistono le due grandi famiglie di università. Le famiglie che adottano il diritto continentale e le università di common law, il modello anglosassone e il modello, diciamo, europeo continentale. Capite che dietro a questa grande distinzione c'è una molteplicità di modalità di finanziamento, di legittimazione dei crediti, di costruzione dei curricula, di un'enorme legislazione nazionale riguardante non solo la scuola primaria o la scuola secondaria o terziaria, problema di identità, ma addirittura l'università. Fermo restando che le università nei paesi di diritto continentale sono riconosciute dalle Costituzioni come dotate della più alta forma di autonomia di qualsiasi altra istituzione regolata dai diritti nazionali. Il paradosso è che questa grandissima autonomia non si può esercitare se non nel rispetto delle leggi nazionali e quindi voi capite già la fatica di riuscire a produrre attraverso il sistema del processo di Bologna, che è stata una cosa meravigliosa, di produrre un effettivo avanzamento riguardo alla mobilità degli studenti e all'accoglienza degli stessi studenti. Altre due affermazioni. Nei modelli anglosassoni abbiamo un problema che ci riguarda come università cattoliche. Conosco i bilanci di 2 università cattoliche americane, la somma dei bilanci annuali di 2 sole università cattoliche americane, non faccio il nome, è pari all'intero investimento della Repubblica Italiana, dello Stato italiano, ogni anno per 60 università. Capite che c'è un problema di scala, c'è un problema di scala. E quando uno è rettore o è seduto come presidente di un trustee che gestisce miliardi di dollari ogni anno, è evidente che deve farli produrre. E c'è un'altra cosa importante dal punto di vista cattolico, o di tutti coloro che credono nella humankind, è che l'intelligenza, fino ad oggi, è una merce distribuita liberamente in tutto il mondo. E chi è molto forte, ha molti mezzi, ha molto prestigio, può disporre di un mercato di intelligenza giovanile a sua disposizione che non costa nulla. E noi sappiamo che i sistemi universitari declinano nei paesi in cui lo sviluppo economico e tecnologico scende, mentre sale il prestigio universitario nei paesi che hanno un processo economico e tecnologico che progredisce. Quindi noi vediamo che ci sono delle asimmetrie enormi rispetto alle quali noi siamo quasi impotenti. La meritocrazia è la più grande mistificazione in nome della quale noi crediamo di poter sostituire l'antica questione del rapporto tra fede e ragione, questione secolare, con la nuova questione posta nel mondo contemporaneo del rapporto tra scienza e giustizia. Chi detiene la scienza è padrone del mondo, non sempre detiene la giustizia. La giustizia è rinviata alle legislazioni o alle opere di carità, mentre la scienza pretende di essere libera e di prodursi secondo una logica di mercato. La domanda è se l'eccellenza, se può esistere un'eccellenza scientifica insieme ad un'eccellenza umana. E dentro a questa questione come porre il ruolo delle università cattoliche, che sono la rete più potente e anche l'unica sovranazionale per quanto riguarda l'alta formazione in questo pianeta. Concludo con alcune questioni molto semplici. A me piacerebbe tanto, ma sono già troppo vecchio, vedere che al posto di un European Credit Transfer System possa nascere nel mondo un Catholic Credit Transfer System. E questa è la sfida vera. È possibile organizzarsi in maniera tale che nelle diverse aree del mondo ci possano nascere dei protocolli tra università cattoliche e non solo in alcune materie secondarie, ma anche nelle materie, nelle scienze mediche, nella fisica, nella matematica o nella filosofia. È possibile arrivare a questa prospettiva. Per arrivarci abbiamo alcuni problemi da superare. Un problema di investimenti, un problema di costi degli studi universitari. Vi sembrerà strano, in Francia le fees per iscriversi a un'università di Stato francese sono pari a $250. In Italia $3.000. A Londra 9-12.000 pound o dollari. Anche solo all'interno del sistema europeo ci sono costi completamente diversi, perché gli Stati decidono di assumersi dei costi in maniera diversa. Il sistema asiatico, il sistema sudamericano, il sistema anglosassone e americano stanno facendo però strada, cioè dicono gli Stati non possono più reggere il costo di un'università di massa e quindi abbandonano l'università alla logica del mercato. Questa è una cosa terribile. Non c'è destra o sinistra politica in Europa che negli ultimi 20 anni sia riuscita a dare un'effettiva risposta rispetto ad una globalizzazione intelligente riguardo al costo e alla mobilità dei docenti e degli studenti. Anche i docenti non possono insegnare nelle università europee senza passare attraverso il riconoscimento della loro carriera. È vero che in alcuni ambiti l'eccellenza scientifica prevale sulle difficoltà di ruolo, ma io, professore universitario di ultimo livello, vado in pensione a 70 anni in Italia, in Francia e in Germania a 65 anni. Io posso fare il visiting professor nell'Università di Parigi, ma non posso essere reclutato come professore di ruolo nelle università francesi, se non attraverso una procedura complicatissima che passa attraverso la Commissione universitaria nazionale dei rispettivi paesi. Voi mi direte c'è un sistema più libero, common law, un sistema dove le università sono sostanzialmente più libere di reclutare i professori. D'accordo, ma lo possono reclutare per periodi o li possono inserire nei ruoli. Ogni paese, ogni area ha il suo problema. Chiudo. Resta per il riconoscimento dei crediti anche un problema di rapporto tra i saperi, tra le scienze dure e gli studi umanistici. La comunità, le big sciences, già da almeno 50 anni sono riuscite a determinarsi delle regole di diritto scientifico e di ricerca internazionale tale che sostanzialmente il merito, dovunque esso sia, in un'università della Corea o in un'università di New York, è sostanzialmente ben valutato e riconosciuto. Il problema è in tutti gli altri ambiti scientifici, cioè nelle cosiddette scienze umane. Lì il problema è molto più complesso perché non si è creata una comunità internazionale globale intorno a nuclei di sapere. Questo problema è un problema serio ed è un problema perché l'accreditamento internazionale degli studi fatti nei vari paesi, dei rifugiati piuttosto che dei richiedenti asilo o anche dei semplici emigranti, il riconoscimento cambia se si tratta di persone che hanno fatto corsi di fisica o di persone che hanno studiato le lettere, l'arte, la sociologia o la storia. Cosa posso dire? Non vorrei aver rovinato la poesia di questo nostro enorme sforzo e la bellezza di innumerevoli esempi di accreditamento, di aiuto, di borse di studio, di sostegno per gran parte, per molti dei rifugiati o degli emigranti. Però, come avete sentito in questi 3 giorni, si tratta sempre di numeri di alcune unità, alcune decine, alcune centinaia. La goccia è importante, ma il problema, almeno da un punto di vista intellettuale, da cattolici impegnati in università cattoliche, dentro a sistemi nazionali o dentro a un sistema globale di conoscenza e di vita, la questione è se possiamo fare qualcosa di più. Se da credenti, insieme ad altre persone, possiamo incidere per creare le premesse che si fondi veramente un piccolo inizio di diritto universitario internazionale. Può fare qualcosa la Santa Sede? Abbiamo bisogno di un'agenzia, sia pure privata, che consorzia alcune università cattoliche in tutto il mondo e che produce un assessment delle carriere pregresse di persone che chiedono di poter accedere a questo sistema. Le prospettive sono molte, le difficoltà sono enormi, ma ho la speranza che i nostri figli capiscano che non esiste solo il programma Erasmus per muoversi, eccetera, ma può esistere un Erasmus Mundus molto più importante al servizio del genere umano. E l'università è nelle condizioni per libertà, competenza, forza intellettuale e mezzi di porsi alla guida di questo processo nuovo e virtuoso di globalizzazione. Scusate tanto e grazie per la vostra attenzione.
Ralph, I'm happy to turn it right over to you.
The web page. Okay. Well, while the magicians fix the computers, I will begin. It's a pleasure and indeed an honor for me to address such a distinguished group of scholars and professionals. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this very important conference for squeezing me into an already very full agenda. It is greatly appreciated. Given the time constraint, I cannot go into details. I'll just briefly outline the project and point you to the resources for you to study at your leisure. I will present two tools that I believe you will find interesting and useful. One is an Erasmus Plus project that will provide tools you can use when assessing and hopefully recognizing the academic background of a refugee. The other initiative is called the European Qualifications Passport for Refugees, an initiative politically supported by Council of Europe. Okay, let's start with the toolkit. It should have been on screen now, but it will appear, I hope. We have a project going, a toolkit, refugees and recognition. And I will ask the organizers to distribute my manuscript to you somehow or other for you to have the web pages, because the link is very long, difficult to write. Well, I hope you manage that. Perfect. The aim of the project is to develop policy and promote the implementation of effective recognition procedures for refugees, displaced persons, and persons in a refugee-like situation. The overall goal is to enhance mobility, employability, and access to further studies for refugees by promoting transnational cooperation and mutual learning. The partners of this project, besides NOCUT, my organization, are CIMEA in Italy, CIEP in France, NAFIC in the Netherlands, and the UK NARIC in the United Kingdom. There are also two associate partners, KMK in Germany and UHR in Sweden. These partners are all the national officers appointed as ENIC NARICs in their respective countries. So I urge you to go to the ENIC NARIC website, enic-naric.net. You'll get a lot of useful information and contact information there. So, in this project, what's in it for you? Now, if you look at the main project activities, first is developing refugee country briefings on the educational systems of the 5 most important refugee countries: Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Secondly, is establishing common guidelines for recognition procedures for refugees, displaced persons, and persons in a refugee-like situation, including persons who do not have official documentation of their educational qualifications. And that is quite often the case. They do lack qualification. Some have partial documentation, some don't have anything at all, but we still need to find ways of helping. Third is establishing a common format for statements to be used in this type of recognition. And we are also developing e-learning modules for ENIC, NARIC, and higher education staff. Now, the country briefings are already published, and you'll find them at the web page that will be distributed to you. You can search also the web page of my organization, nocut.no, and just search for toolkit, and you'll find them. And I think they're very useful information there, and giving you a good background to understand the education systems from where the refugees are coming. The project will be finalized by March 2018, and I do really hope and believe that these country briefings and e-learning modules will be of aid to many of you. I will now skip to the next initiative that I would like to mention to you. It's called the European Qualification Passport for Refugees, EQPR for short. And again, the web page is very neatly described on the web pages of Council of Europe. If you Google Council of Europe and Qualifications Passport, you will find the web page. This is a pilot project within the action plan, Building Inclusive Societies. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it? And it is also based on the Council of Europe Lisbon Recognition Convention that Melanie mentioned earlier. Partners include the Greek Ministry of Education, Research and Religious Affairs, and qualification recognition centers in Greece, Italy, Norway, and the UK. And also the UNHCR office in Greece also supports this project. And as I said, the Council of Europe is also heavily involved. Now I really would have liked to have that particular web page on the screen, because there was something that I needed to show you there. Please, someone.
I've asked the technical people and I haven't gotten a response back, so I don't know.
Okay. If they do figure it out, we can show that video a bit later. But it would have been very neat, actually. Okay. I'll then just continue. The European Qualifications Passport for Refugees is a document providing an assessment of the higher education qualification based on available documentation and a structured interview. Aha, something's happening. And if the magicians could scroll down a little bit, can I do that myself? And down to the left, there's a video. Yes. Greece is pioneering. If you can, exactly. It's 50. Okay. So, as I said, it was based on a structured interview, and it also presents information on applicants' work experience and language proficiency. And the document provides reliable information for integration and progression towards employment and admission to further studies. It is a specially developed assessment scheme for refugees, even for those who cannot fully document their qualifications. We start by sending out a questionnaire. It's normally sent to candidates 3 weeks before this evaluation, with 2 weeks to fill it in, allowing the evaluators 1 week to review them. And the interviews themselves take between 45 minutes and an hour, after which a decision on whether or not to issue the document is made. And if the decision is positive, the European Qualification Passport for Refugees is issued and valid for 5 years from date of issue. And I would like just to mention that passport number 1 was issued to a Syrian lady, and she's now in Norway studying at the University of Applied Science in Oslo. Now the first group of candidates was interviewed from 7th to 9th of March in Athens, and the project brings together credentials evaluators from Greece, Italy, Norway, and the UK to facilitate and accelerate the recognition of refugees' qualifications in Greece, their first host country. and 2 additional sessions were held in June and September 2017. And as of today, 72 EQPRs have been issued, so it's a pilot project. If someone could please scroll down on that page and just click on the document there. There are small green men, these computers, Ah, there it is. So this is what it looks like. It's a 4-page document. The first 2 pages relate to the person in question. So you have the name, date of birth, the place of birth, assessed qualifications, and additional relevant information. So if you can please scroll down a little to the next page. There's an explanatory part on the back side, explaining what it is and what it is not. Both are also important. So if you please go a bit further down to the next page. There's also an advice on the way ahead. So it gives quite a lot of good advice on what people can expect and what they can try to do in the next port of entry. So these 2 initiatives, I believe that they are of use. We think that the European Qualification Passport for Refugees is a scheme that can be of immense value. We have great support from House of Europe and also UNHCR. And it's an aid to facilitate the further settlement of refugees. There shouldn't be a need to go through the same procedure in every country they come to. This document should be trusted in the next country a person comes to. It's a matter of saving time, building inclusive societies, and helping people reshaping their lives. And that brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. I would just like to thank you all for all the great work you're doing, helping people. I really appreciate that, and let us keep up the good work for the benefit of mankind. Thank you.
Sorry for the technical problem. If I may now open the floor for some questions before we take the coffee break, and Ashish will give you the mic first. Thank you.
Thank you. So the quick thing that I've heard all morning is around mutual recognition, right, and cross-border certifications and things like that. I have just a question. What are the barriers do the universities face today when it comes to refugees and their actual data, right? Because it seems like they don't own their data, which means they don't exist, right? So what are the challenges that you're facing today?
They are the institutions of the governments, like the Midwest Accreditation Institution, which looks at the criteria of the university to fulfill. For example, if we call the learning sites a center, then in that institution, then they have to visit it. It's then like a campus of Regis. So we don't call it anymore center. We need to rephrase. There are this kind of criteria. The basic thing is what we meet also in Germany is de facto the states and all these existing bodies have not yet adjusted to the new world of human mobility, and it's a learning process, I guess.
To further complicate the situation in the United States, there are 6 regional accrediting agencies. So what may be the rules for Regis College, which is in the West, Western Association of Colleges and Universities, and what the rules are in the Northeast Association of Colleges and Universities, there are differences. So and there's no national system. So that's only in one particular country.
I'd like to keep it simple. I'm not in higher education, I'm in communications, but so I apologize if any of this seems too simple, but to explain it to me in some levels, I really appreciated this panel tremendously. Some of what you're talking about almost seems like technical questions, but in many ways, considering what we've talked about during the rest of the conference, this seems almost as important as so many of the human issues at hand. Clearly, feeding and housing folks is really important, but it seems to me there's almost a sin of bureaucracy going on. There's almost a sense that there's not a burning platform, as you like to call it, for folks to say, whoa, this is a humanitarian crisis. So I guess my question is, when people complain about we don't have the resources to help all these refugees, et cetera, it seems to me from a bureaucratic standpoint, this would be a slam dunk to get done. Not, obviously, it's much more complicated in ways I clearly don't understand. But I would wonder, A, if the power of pragmatism is not enough, how about the power of shame over universities and governments toward this very clear humanitarian crisis? And are there any precedents in other areas of human endeavor in which bureaucracies got together quickly in times like this to help streamline efforts?
There's another power of the win-win.
Right.
And if universities understand to have a global community of students, if Regis gets de facto for something, not too much, or whatever, 360 students from 40 different countries all over the world, that is enriching for a university and the conversation. And we have started to take also students from these universities into some of the classes to learn together. That might be more convincing than shaming.
Bill used the phrase slam dunk. For those of you who are not familiar with American basketball, that's an allusion to the basketball being put into the basket quickly.
Mine is really a comment more than anything, but we heard from Fabio in the first session today about the global compacts, and I would say that one of the Catholic positions that in the 20 points is specifically to encourage states to adopt national policies around equal access to education, but they refer there to primary and secondary. But then and I'm not sure if it was referred to this morning, the 10 acts for the Global Compact that Caritas Internationalis and others have worked out. And there's a specific thing, 6.1, education, development, care for all. 6.2, student visa and scholarships, which is the kind of thing we're talking about here. Well, part of the thing we're talking about here. So they're really questioning, they're bringing up that issue of a right to university education. And also 6.3 is the portability of skills and qualifications, which is picked up. So I suppose my point is that just there is a framework and that the Catholic Church is working towards these goals, and we should borrow from that and be part of the strategy going forward.
I would like to thank very much for that comment, because that's exactly the direction we're going at the moment. And I'm sitting here for the ENIC office for the Holy See, so as we just learned, one of the oldest institutions, and that taught me quite humility, because the things I want to get done in 3 months, maybe my predecessor hasn't get done in 300 years. So it's about not losing faith, hope, and charity, and all three of them. And the hope is still that we are in service of society, and we will eventually prevail to that respect. And the Holy See is trying its very best to stay in this process, and we're at the moment, we furnished an expert to come up with a text for a global convention on recognition that will give an overarching framework for all the regional recognition conventions. Because as I said, the recognition is that what gives you the access and what guarantees you the inclusion in the system. So it may not be in a week or in a month or in a year to overcome bureaucratic hurdles, but we will eventually go there, because it's the better thing to do. And I'm still thinking people have enough reason to understand more students is also to the benefit of the institutions and the universities. So at the end of the day, that will be the driving force also for political movement. Thank you.
About universities, so far I didn't hear anything about universities of third age. You have at University of Third Age, and they are close to Catholic universities, you have a reservoir of brains. You have a reservoir of experience. And they are not limited by age anymore. They are not limited by anything, in a way, except their goodwill. And I think that we should make kind of venture with universities as such, and universities of third age. Because you have a lot of people there, they are able to teach. They have experience in life, and so they are able to dedicate their time. And they find kind of sense in life, a meaningful purpose, helping people. They are at the age of a very critical moment in their life. They have stopped the academic path, and they are thinking of doing something meaningful, most of them. It's not just about going to Guadalupe. It is about doing something meaningful. And I think that we have there a reservoir of energy, experience, and we should think about doing something in that area. Thank you.
If I could just reinforce that point, it's a tremendous reservoir of assistance that we could capitalize on. The Secretary General of the Federation and I had a conversation the other day just about this topic of how we might bring those resources together of people who have retired but are still looking to be of service, and the tremendous resource they could be on this project is definitely worth exploring. Being someone who's approaching that category, I'm even more interested in it, but...
Credo che la questione sia da porre in questi modi. Se prendiamo i trattati europei, l'area di maggiore presenza di un sistema universitario come il continente europeo, dove l'università è nata, nei trattati europei l'istruzione è stata esclusa dalle materie di competenza dell'Unione Europea. Restano le misure di accompagnamento, di aiuto, e questo si spiega per la storia europea, storia di un continente diviso da guerre, dove l'identità nazionale si costruisce nella primary school. Ma all'università è sempre stato riconosciuto una grande libertà ed è stata posta sotto la massima tutela di libertà. Allora la questione è molto semplice. Se i rettori delle università cattoliche sono in grado di mettersi alla testa di un movimento di opinione pubblica che usa la libertà accademica, la libertas docenti, per creare un pezzetto di diritto internazionale universitario. Gli strumenti sono molti. Anche solo creare una piattaforma online dove le persone da ogni parte del mondo possano farsi valutare preliminarmente quelli che sono i loro crediti d'origine, aiuta moltissimo a creare un'opinione pubblica e un canale non parallelo, ma un canale aperto di possibile circolazione. Un'ultima osservazione. Non credo che per quanto riguarda l'argomento di questa bella conferenza, i MOOC o la formazione a distanza siano veramente al cuore di una missione cattolica. Sono importantissimi. Sono decisivi, ma dobbiamo accettare il principio, un principio, dobbiamo dircelo tutti. Se l'accoglienza dentro l'università di una persona in carne ed ossa deve essere un valore aggiunto rispetto alla formazione di competenze che si danno attraverso la rete o la banda larga. Se accettiamo il principio umanistico che le persone devono venire nei campus universitari, le università devono sapere che si devono far carico della persona, della sua famiglia e di costi che sono rilevanti, oltre che della tutela del passport internazionale nei vari paesi. È un'operazione complessa, è un'operazione difficile, però anche qui bisogna fare una scelta. Non si può essere caritatevoli coi MOOC se si decide che si deve far vivere l'esperienza universitaria come un qualche cosa che riguarda le persone in carne ed ossa. L'accoglienza è una questione fondamentale e non può essere sostituita da nessun altro surrogato, perché se no non si fa altro che alimentare. Importantissimo, la formazione a distanza è uno strumento decisivo, ma non può surrogare quella che è la vita e la comunità universitaria. Altrimenti non facciamo altro che produrre una burocrazia dei crediti e delle competenze e quindi andiamo dietro alla logica di un sistema di carta e non di un sistema reale di interazione umana. Ci sono quindi dietro alle questioni che abbiamo sollevato alcune grandi scelte. Se i rettori di 50 università cattoliche al mondo mettessero anche solo $10.000 ciascuno per creare una piattaforma al servizio di tutti coloro che provenendo da un paese dell'Africa, piuttosto che della Siria, piuttosto che della Russia, decidessero di vedere se ci sono possibilità per essere accolti in una delle università americane, sudamericane e europee, sarebbe già un grande strumento. Naturalmente questo comporta che ci sia una chiarezza riguardo agli obiettivi e alle resistenze a questi obiettivi che esistono nel mondo. Ci sono intere aree del mondo che non accettano il sistema europeo dei credit transfer. Non ne vogliono sapere, perché dicono li vogliamo vedere noi e decidiamo noi se prenderli. Ma questo fa sì che o si dà una formazione di seconda qualità, oppure si seleziona l'intelligenza allo stato naturale e si va a cercare gente disponibile a lavorare e a buttarsi nella logica della competizione accademica della ricerca, a prescindere dal servizio che si può dare come università cattoliche.
I have the pleasure of thanking our panelists for the sessions this morning. Thank you very, very much. My second pleasure is to invite you for coffee, and my third task is to remind you to please be back in this room at 11:35.